Fireside chat on the from vision to reality, the role of tech in designing dreams. Please welcome our speakers for this session. Madhavi Shankar, co-founder and CEO, SpaceBasic Inc. A round of applause, please, for Madhavi. Come on, ladies and gentlemen, make some noise. And keep applauding as we welcome Ritu Srivastava, co-founder and CEO, TheLightbulb.Ai. Welcome, ma'am. And let's welcome our moderator for the session, Professor Dr. Charru Malhotra, Professor E-Governance and ICT, Indian Institute of Public Administration, New Delhi. Let's give ma'am a warm welcome to the stage.
Okay, namaskar all of you, and a very warm good evening to all the female energies with a sprinkle of male energies. Bingo. So all set to go, and the panel is all about startups and women leaders. We saw the previous question. So now we'll hear from horse's mouth about these issues and the positive side also. I'm Charru, and my question to them, without any particular preference, goes to Ritu on my side, and then to Madhavi. The question I have for you is, for the sake of audience, tell them what is your startup about? Very little. What is your role in that? A huge one. And where are you going from here now? Okay, over to you, Ritu.
Thank you so much, Charru. Hi, everybody. My name is Ritu Soni Srivastava, part of the co-founding team at TheLightbulb.Ai. We are a full-stack emotion AI platform. We essentially build products that read emotion and engagement in digital and human interactions. Our primary use case is in market research. So we help businesses understand consumers and their insights. I personally play the sales, marketing, and investor relations role. So everything to do with the money is my purview. And we're in the process, we're just about 1.5 years old. We're a second-time founding team. We've built and sold one business in the past to US-based investors. We're now in the process of building and scaling our second business.
That was quick. Thank you, Ritu. So give a round of applause, please. Thank you. Madhavi, your turn.
Hi, my name is Madhavi. I'm the CEO and co-founder of SpaceBasic. SpaceBasic is Asia's largest student housing and university campus automation platform. Now, what we do is we help universities automate their day-to-day tasks outside of the classroom. So operations around, let's say, student housing, access control, macro payments around the campus, as well as cafeteria. So everything outside of the classroom where students spend most of their time and staff spends most of their time kind of managing it manually, we automate that for them, and then we provide AI-driven insights that help them kind of do better and save more. So our goal with SpaceBasic is to empower universities and university management to spend less time on tasks and more time with students. So we work with about, I want to say about 75, 80 universities across India, Southeast Asia, and almost about 250,000 users on SpaceBasic today. Oh, I'm the founder and CEO.
Okay. Okay, so this is what a leader is. She goes in the back and she talks about her passion. Okay, so Ritu, you talked about your startup, and we could sense it has got an undertone of emotional analysis and using AI for it. Now, let me go deeper into your emotions, okay? So my question to you is, how did you land up with this, okay? And, okay, how did you land up with this, okay?
Well, I have a 15-year-old daughter, and during COVID, we were in the exit period of our first startup. And I remember the exact moment that the idea came to me, because I walked in one morning, it was a Tuesday morning, and she was flat on the bed with the iPad propped on her chest, her chaddar pulled up to her nose, and she was fast asleep. And her teacher was droning on. And I was shocked. I was like, at least have the courtesy to get up and attend your classes. But that was practically the situation in every home. It was at that point of time that I left that room wondering whether there was a way to measure and communicate learner engagement to edtech businesses, to help them understand whether students on the other side of the screen were even awake. Forget engaged, whether they were even awake. So Lightbulb started as a way of measuring learner engagement using visual AI. And from there, we pivoted and changed and read the market. And now we are a platform that provides emotion AI through visual and conversational means.
Wow. Let's give a round of applause again. So, dear friends, do you realize that it's only a woman who has an acumen and emotional quotient to connect to the need of a society? So imagine only a proactive mother would have thought of this kind of an initiative, and with due regrets, not a proactive father. Okay, so over to you, Madhavi. What spurred you into this space? Because this space basic is from being from government, I treat it more like an activity which is on the sidelines, more of a sulabh kind of an activity. So what spurred you towards it? Thank
That's
you.
exactly the reason. Because what we don't realize is when we speak about ed tech, everyone's talking about learning management systems, exam preparation softwares, or student onboarding. Well, statistically, a lot of university staff and teachers end up spending a lot of time on non-academic work, right? And it's mundane, it's day to day, and it's almost, it can be automated really easily. And that's what we want to do. So the more, for me, why education as a space is very close to me is because, when I went away overseas for my master's, I realized that education that I was exposed to in India was very kind of, textbook driven, while when I was in Australia, it was very collaborative. And that's the reason why I really wanted to start something in the education space. But as soon as I started doing due diligence, I understood that operations and facilities management in general in universities is very manually driven. Whether it's an IIT or whether it's a lesser known university, the way they manage things are very similar, maybe a little better compared to each other, but a lot of this can be automated. A lot of this can provide very, very valuable insights for cost savings and for just reduction in resources. So that's what we do, and that's the reason why we picked this space.
So anything which is ordinary and mundane should not be ignored because it forms a basis of building up a great ecosystem. So I'll now break the round robin and come to you, Madhavi. In all this discussion in last 5 minutes we are left with, what challenges you encountered particularly as a woman in this space, or maybe as a women thinker or a women leader or a women entrepreneur? And be as candid as possible and come with the good points also, maybe later. Thank you.
I think for me, regardless, keeping gender aside for a quick second, I think it was mostly first-time entrepreneur challenges and navigating that. I think what really helped was having access to good women mentors, because that will help you kind of, skip through some of the first-time entrepreneur challenges. I want to say I did not face a lot of gender-based, discrimination per se. I did see a little bit of that when I was raising money. Yes, at that point, perhaps. But I think, and later I understood that it was more to do with the way we tell stories. So as women, we tell more realistic stories. Our predictions, our numbers, etc., are very aligned to what we can do. Versus later, actually, a male investor told me about this, and men are more pragmatic about what they can achieve, regardless of whether they will achieve it or not. But I think it really lied in storytelling. I did later understand that, but I think in general, in this space, I don't look at it from a gender lens, more of can we get this done or not. But yeah, when fundraising, there is I still think there is a bit of a bias there.
Round of applause to this candid answer, that women have this knack of being real, not fluffing it up, and staying true to the numbers and their realistic expectations. Ritu, how do you say to that? And what do you say to that?
Well, this is a number we were discussing in the speakers lounge. It's abysmal. If you look at global investment trends, between 2 to 5% of VC money actually goes to women-led startups. So to say that gender bias and discrimination exists, we all know it does. I think, as Madhavi and I were discussing, it's very subtle now. It used to be very obvious in the past, but people are very politically correct today. You will not see it being called out to your face. It's always couched as some other reason to not invest in your company. Having said that, I think we're proof that it can be broken through. If you build a valuable business and if you build a great team and you have a solution that works, you can break through those barriers. And again, this is something Madhavi and I were discussing. I think both of us had one thing in common, that we tend, and most entrepreneurs that make it somewhere, tend not to see these barriers. You see it as a problem that has to be overcome. You don't agonize about it. You don't worry that it's because of your gender. It's a problem that exists, like a hiring problem. It's a gender problem, and you just have to find a way around it.
Wow, that is some optimism. A round of applause. Okay, so you realize on both my sides, I have women entrepreneurs who've cracked it, who've broken the glass ceiling, the proverbial glass ceiling. But you've also understood through these discussions that they are not willing to call it as a headwind or a roadblock. They're taking it up as a challenge, as an opportunity to prove themselves, and probably come up with something more innovative and more relevant. So my last question to both of you, can you recall, like she talked about that Tuesday when she saw her daughter not focusing, can you recall any anecdote, any episode which you think is relevant for anybody who's trying to walk the same path as you are doing?
Not so much of an anecdote, but I think what really helped me was before I figured out what problem am I going to solve in this space, I think talking to a lot of, thorough due diligence and asking I think the real question here is, will they pay for my solution? Right? Is it a problem big enough that the customer will pay and will pay year on year, right? So that's pretty much, the real question. And when we were doing due diligence, when we were trying to solve a problem, that's what we were looking at. So I think that was probably something that we paid a lot of attention to in the beginning before we narrowed down to saying, this is what we're going to do.
So an IIPA perfection, due diligence, adequate research backs up your idea more than your gender or your places. Final take.
Well, I don't have an anecdote per se, but this is something that happens to date in my home. I think in my first startup, I had a very limited pool of money that I had pulled from my savings, and we were trying to raise funding and struggling at it. And I remember coming home to my spouse, my husband, and I told him, I don't know how we're going to do this. We have about 1 lakh left in the bank and salaries to pay, and we're going to die. And I remember his answer then. He said, talk to me when the money runs out. And that same situation happened I think 3-4 months ago, where I said, we're struggling, these revenues are not coming in. And he said, remember, let's talk when the money runs out. And the reason I'm bringing it up is that women tend to forecast problems. It's very realistic, it's great, it's good that you see the problems, but you allow them to break you before you get to the problem. Let's figure out the problem when the money runs out. Till then, fight. Fight every day. And then if the money runs out, then we'll deal with it. Hoga.
So maybe the money never runs out. True, and you don't talk about it. This is very personal. It just come to me right now. How easy it is to be a husband-wife team? Yes. Yeah.
Well, it's not easy. It's definitely not easy. But, after 1.5 years of working together, the first year we fought like cats and dogs. I think my daughter came back and said, the two of you need to move into different flats because I am done listening to you fighting. But the next 6 months, we've turned into this power-packed team. And I think the reason why that happened was twofold. One, we realized that your spouse is the one co-founder who is totally aligned to your interests, whether financial or personal. Because if you go down, he goes down. So there is no one more invested in your success than your partner. The second is that if you decide to draw a very clear line between what you handle and what he handles, and you stay on your side of the line, then it turns into an amazing partnership.
Wow, I would remember this. Thank you. Okay, so I'll ask you the other end of the spectrum. How easy it is to be a pretty young, daring, risk-taking woman who's single?
Very easy. No, I'm kidding. I mean, yeah, we all do. I think, especially when you're of a certain age, and you are in a society where, in India, you're very bound to societal norms, like you need to be married before you're 30, etc. So these are some things that we negotiate every day with our parents. But having said that, I think having clarity about vision and not being opposed to anything. If it happens, if it aligns with your goals, that's great. But I think for me, the way I look at it, if it aligns with my goals and if that's something that I can take on, absolutely. But I think right now I'm enjoying the ride, so we'll see how long that lasts.
Let's give him a round of applause. Last one question from anybody, a candid question. Get up, please, fast. Last 22 seconds. Okay, in a board meeting, does the yang voice dominate a yin voice? Yang. The male energies, do they dominate the female energies?
I think it all depends on what's on your term sheet and what's everything, so you define it very
But
well.
you
and
faffed,
roles.
no?
Sorry?
You faffed the numbers, no, in that to.
Oh,
get-
yeah. Well,
then what happens?
That's why you got to be realistic and align with those numbers. So when you're saying I'm going to hit this, I'm going to hit this plus or minus 10, 20%, not more than that. So that's okay.
Okay.
Anyone other question? I still have 19. Okay, let's give them a round of applause, please. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, make some noise, please, for these very inspiring women on stage. Thank you.